With the new featured exotic armors list comes fresh builds, and with it, some that are whack and some that are wild. So let's talk about Rime-Coat Raiment. In the grand scheme of exotics, Rime-Coat is pretty new, being released just 2 seasons ago, but it's already cemented itself as one of my favorite exotics in the game. Stasis is just so much fun to use, from slow and freeze to shatter damage and crystals, and it culminates into a really well-rounded package, but the exotic options weren't always that thrilling. Osmiomancy was my go-to since I think Bleakwatcher turrets are awesome, but Osmio didn't necessarily add anything all that exciting into the mix. Yeah, you could have another turret, but it was still just a base turret and you could easily operate around just one, making Osmio a little bit less useful. Balladors is, well, Balladors. I won't lie to you and act like I know anything about them, because I never equipped them since I run a vast majority of my content solo, and they just didn't really work for that. They have been changed, and I'll be doing a pass on them later this season for the series since they're featured, but again, they just never stuck out to me as being all that cool. And then entered Rime-Coat. All the benefits of running Bleakwatcher are vastly improved by using Rime-Coat, while adding in multiple gameplay and build crafting benefits that are not only really fun, but turn the already fantastic crowd control of Stasis Warlock up to 11. Base Stasis can CC a lot of targets and easily spread, slow, freeze, and shatter, but when you're running Rime-Coat, it really feels like you're controlling the whole battlefield at once. If you're unfamiliar, Rime-Coat enhances your Bleakwatcher turrets by extending its range, spawning 4 crystals when you drop it, and creating a buffing field within the crystals called Bleak Domain. When you're within the domain, you gain stacks of icicles that fire alongside your weapons, which can slow and eventually freeze your targets. This is an extremely fun gameplay loop that essentially turns you into a stasis turret too. The icicles allow you to either dump rounds into a single target to freeze and shatter them for extra damage, or spread your shots around to slow additional enemies that your turret isn't hitting. As a result, you get the benefit of having your turret do what it does best by slowing and freezing as many enemies as it can, while also being able to manually debuff targets yourself. Since the icicles shoot whenever you shoot your gun, it also massively increases the effectiveness of certain stasis perks like Rime Stealer, letting you freeze enemies as you shoot them to help maintain your frost armor. There's a bunch of really fantastic stasis artifact mods this season 2 that let you play even further into this, as well as loads of fantastic options within the subclass itself for some of the most synergistic interactions I can think of. So first things first, let's go over my specific build so you can know exactly what I was working with, and I'll gush a little bit more after. The foundation for this build is of course Bleakwatcher to take advantage of Rime-Coat, but the second aspect is absolutely just as important, which is Ice Flare bolts. Whenever you kill a frozen target, Ice Flare bolts seek out and freeze up to 2 nearby enemies, which massively increases CC potential since it can chain indefinitely. Since freezing as much as possible is the goal, for my first 2 fragments I went with Whisper of Fissures and Whisper of Rending to instantly shatter crystals and frozen targets while also increasing the size and damage of the bursts. With how often I was able to freeze targets, Rime Stealer was my go-to perk, paired alongside Headstone or the new Crystalline Corpse Bloom to constantly maintain frost armor. There's loads of great options with that combo, like the new Seraphine Haze from Pinnacle Ops, Judgment if you had the chance to get one during Rite of the Nine, Intercalary from the new Raid, which sadly I don't have yet, or even Jurisprudent from Fireteam Ops. For my other 2 fragments, I went with Whisper of Rime so I'd be able to stack that frost armor higher, and Whisper of Shards so I could get increased grenade regeneration when shattering crystals. Shards is an awesome choice here since alongside Headstone or Crystalline, your turret spawns crystals, making it extremely easy to generate another grenade by the time your turret runs out. With the constant cycle of freeze, shatter, and frost armor, it opens up a lot of synergies within the artifact mods, with the big one being Frigid Glare. Frigid Glare causes a freezing burst on precision kills if you have frost armor, which is perfect paired with Rime Stealer since killing those frozen targets will keep your frost armor active, so you can continue to cause more bursts. There's also Frost Renewal, which causes a freezing burst whenever you reach critical health when you have frost armor, and One with Frost, which gives you stacks of frost armor on rapid precision hits. These 2 are less potent than Frigid Glare, but they're great options for extra ways to cause freeze and maintain your frost armor. For my special weapon, I went with Buried Bloodline so I could add Devour into the mix alongside my frost armor for just about the best survivability possible. You can definitely switch this out if you're focusing on lower stakes content or you're comfortable with using things like orbs as your healing source, but adding Devour into the insane crowd control and damage output of Stasis feels incredible and has long since been my go-to. For my armor, I went with a full set of Last Discipline armor so I could not only get better reload speed, but I could also generate as much special ammo as I could for Buried Bloodline. The armor mods I'd consider important would be Special Ammo Finder and Stasis Siphon to help generate as much special ammo as possible, as well as Harmonic Ammo Generation, and of course some Stasis Surges. For stats, focus on getting your grenade up to 100 only, since you don't need to worry about its damage output, and after that I'd say crank your weapons as high as possible, since that'll be doing most of the work. For my heavy weapon, I've been lucky enough to get an auto-loading Chill Clip Submersion, which is perfect for this build as a double champ stun, but you could also go with Ulterior Observation from Kepler, which can also roll with Headstone Rhyme Stealer or even Subsistence Killing Tally. I know it seems like kind of a lot going on, a lot of debuffs and free sources and a lot to take in, but when things get rolling, it's an extremely smooth and effective build. For the game plan, you start the fight by dropping a turret and breaking at least one of the crystals it spawns to get Frost Armor. Next, try to activate Devour as quickly as you can while your turret starts to freeze enemies. Once Devour is up, do your best to stay in the domain, focusing on shattering as many frozen targets as possible so you can spread Ice Flare bolts. Make crystals with either Headstone or Corpse Bloom so you can shatter them to up your grenade stat, max out your Frost Armor, and slay out. If you get low on Frost Armor, you can break the crystals under the turret, and if your turret ends and you're missing some ability energy for the next one, you can break the crystals to get that extra bit you need. This build is crazy fun and extremely effective, debuffing dozens of enemies at once, all of which can be taken down with a perfectly placed crystal or a shatter. It's so satisfying to get that feeling that you're in complete control of the battle, with every kill healing you with Devour, strengthening your defense with Frost Armor, and spreading your freeze like a blizzard. Crowd control is really effective in Destiny, and outside of Stasis, it's not exactly readily available or super easy to build around. There's things like Blind on Arc, or even options like Disorienting Blast from TechSec, but the level to which Stasis causes CC is absolutely unreal. Prior to Buried Bloodline or perks like Rhyme Stealer coming out, that CC was something that you needed to make a sacrifice in survivability for, but now having the option to add in such strong survivability options, it makes for an extremely potent build. When I think about the identity of Warlocks, I think of builds like this one, where the magic or the abilities present are so effective and so powerful that they can completely change the landscape of an engagement. Things like Well of Radiance on Solar can give your team a place of safety in a sea of enemies. Your Threadlings on Strand can autonomously break down enemy ranks from within, severing and unraveling them to later be used to your advantage. And on Stasis, you can completely stop entire fields of enemies before they even have the chance to threaten you. While this build fulfills an interesting fantasy, it's also extremely practical, since the combination of Bleak Watcher, Domain Icicles, and Ice Flare bolts spreads freeze at such a fast rate it can shift the balance of a fight that would otherwise be completely overwhelming to instead be in your favor. Regardless of whether you're in a solo or fireteam setting, it works so well to increase your damage output, decrease the danger of enemies, and buff your survivability to keep you safe even if some do break through the defenses. I think Rime-Coat strikes a really elegant balance between utility, damage output, and ease of use that is matched by very few other exotic options, and on top of that, it's just so much fun. I obviously like to get a bit more philosophical in my videos about things like class identity and build fantasies, but when I'm playing, I do everything by feel. If I throw on a weapon or an armor set or an exotic and it doesn't feel right, it's hard for me to use it, even if it's good. On the other hand, if something meshes with me, even if it isn't the most potent thing in the world, I'm much happier to run it since it makes me feel powerful. I say that because this build makes me feel like Neo stopping the bullets. There are very few other builds in the game that click with me to the level that this one does, and if you haven't had the chance to try out Rime-Coat up to this point, I cannot recommend a single build higher. It looks cool, it's potent, and it's just so fun. I could talk about this build all day, so suffice to say, Rime-Coat Raiment is absolutely, undeniably wild. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. There's a dim link down below if you want to give this exact build a try, or if you want to use it as a base for your own spin on it. Subscribe to the channel to keep an eye out for more videos soon, and let me know in the comments what you think of Rime-Coat Raiment.